It is very important that we cover that questions and the answers related to that question. What is telepathic communication? You know, if you run your own telepathy events in your own location, and you will many times have participants who have no idea at all how these things all work, and they have questioned what telepathic communication is. Yourself, you have many experience in that field, and you have your own definition of what telepathic communication is. And what we like to do is to give you one possible definition, helping you to use that in your own telepathy center activities. So, if we look to telepathic communication and ask that question, what is behind telepathic communication, then many people, if you ask that in your event, you ask the participants, what is telepathic communication for you, for example, then most of the time, the people will say, oh yes, I know, that is a communication and interchange of thoughts. That is a very common understanding of telepathy. And if you dig a little bit into thoughts, then you will find different aspects of thought, like numbers, for example, or complicated sentences or simple words, for example. We had just now an experience with numbers, but we will recognize that much more complicated. That's a very powerful form of communication. We will have symbols, we will have an exchange of drawings or images, and that is here represented by some examples. So we had, for example, on the left top side, we have some simple numbers received, but that could be in any complicated form. If we go to thoughts, that could be a wonderful sentence. Hopefully, you say that a lot of time during the day. We have that roses. We have very complicated mathematic symbols like this here. That is also possible to communicate. That we will touch a little bit later if we talk about participants who are scientists in your events. And then we have this wonderful pictures, images, drawings like that, in that case, line, and you can imagine many more things. And if we run our practical exercise next week, you will recognize many different aspects there. The next thing is, and that is not so common, even some participants mention that a lot of time, and that is a very important time, is this one. Telepathic communication is also the exchange of emotions, represented by some examples. It doesn't matter which emotion it is, but we know there are very low energy emotions, I would like to say, where we have a smile, for example, or a high energy emotion like this wonderful guy, I think, he's laughing. That is a very powerful emotion. And then we have that rage, we have sorrow like this here, we have doubts symbolized with that girl here, and we have that wonderful picture, which is a very important aspect we will cover a little bit later, where a woman is showing love to her baby, right? And you can imagine emotions at like an amplifier for telepathic communication, right? So if you imagine that you don't use emotions during telepathic communication, that is a small light with a small candle which is lighted and showing the light. But if you have strong emotions, then you are an amplifier of telepathic communications, like a great beamer with a very bright light shining in the creation, I would like to say. So we will come back to that because that is very important later. And then we have a third part of telepathic communication, which is a little bit unknown for many people if it comes to telepathic communication. but often used for some healers, for example, or animal communicators, to name a few. That is, we can exchange sense impressions. So here, representing by hearing, we have smelling, we have that feeling, we can see, we can balance, that is that kind of sense we use, or we can taste in that example, food. And what I mentioned is some animal communicators, as an example, are using that. And that is related to one possible thing we can do with our consciousness. We can move into an animal, for an example, and can use the senses of the animal. Or we can go into, with our consciousness, if it's agreed, in the body of a client, if there is illness, and we can go through the body and feel inside the body where the original source of that illness is. And this kind of things. You can do many things with your consciousness and with the telepathic communication. And what I would like to emphasize at this point already is that that is, just a second, I got a message, Afa or Jenny, could you just look to the chat and answer the question, or go back to Louis, please? That the consciousness, your consciousness, is without any limitation. That is a very important sentence and statement I would like to emphasize and to underline. And we will see a little bit later what this could mean regarding the telepathic communication. Okay, we have basically thoughts, we have emotions, and we have sense impressions, which are part of the telepathic communication. And then we go one step further, asking the question, who is communicating telepathically? That is a very, very important question. And now you see on that slide that the picture of the brain or the head of a human changed to that light. And that has a reason. Because now we are talking about the communication on a different level than brain. We talk about a communication on consciousness level. That is a very important thing. So we are communicating with consciousness entities, if we would like to describe it in that way. And yesterday, Luna, for example, mentioned a lot of examples where they already work telepathically with nature, with rocks, with crystals, plants, and animals, and this kind of things. Thank you so much, Luna, for mentioning that. Exactly, that is the thing we can do telepathically. And here are some examples for what we can use for telepathic communication. You can use with telepathic communication with plants, and we will see that plants are very, very important in telepathic communication. Flowers. We can talk to animals of any kind. That doesn't matter how big this animal is. It could be a bird, it could be a snake, it could be insects. If we talk, for example, to the group soul of insects, but that we can expand. We also are able to communicate with a rock, with matter, with, in that case, with crystals. Very, very interesting and important in that days if we start to communicate with this kind of things. We can talk to water. Here, in that case, we have water, and you can communicate with water. You can communicate with the fire, like many, many shamans are doing that. They have communication with the elements of Gaia, of the earth. And basically, that is also telepathy. There's no difference in the communication. And then here on the right side, that is a very important thing, and I think Julia, who is a member of our team, is very important in the team, because this here is a component which is related to the free energy. That is a Markgraf generator, one picture of a Markgraf generator delivering energy based on free energy. And what we have learned, and if you participated yesterday, what we have learned is that it's very, very important that we have a very close relationship with our consciousness to the free energy components. That could be guns, that could be makrav, that could be healing pads, for example, that could be the pads, healing pads. It doesn't matter if you start to communicate telepathically. You can ask, what is your status? What do you need to deliver energy, for example? And what I can tell you at the moment is that we have unbelievable information received from the generators, from the Q6 or whatever, when it comes to what do you need to function. And that is very important to consider. They mentioned us a lot of time that they need special light, and that refers to our chakra. Yeah, that is one point. The heart chakra, solar plexus chakra, which are opened, are very important for free energy components. And what is also very important is our fine, clear intention. What we would like to do with the generator, with the free energy components. That means that if we start to synchronize with our consciousness, we can learn what the generator or the free energy component needs to do or needs from us. Love is many, many times one of the aspects they require from us, not so much the technical thing to work with the wires and the exact current and this kind of things. That is very well done by many, many engineers. No, that is very much here our consciousness and the intention to live together in harmony and respect with the generators. So that is the reason that we got the information from our star sister, star brothers, that free energy is one part of the telepathy centers to work with. What we are intending to do is during the next webinars, I think not next webinar or next weekend, but with a certain topic on that free energy components, that we run webinars communicating with the generators and free energy components. Well, then we have that level consciousness entities. Those are communicating, and that could be that we have many consciousness entities we are communicating in parallel. And then the last point is it is independent of space and time. So this picture shows the Big Bang picture many scientists are using, where there was a big light, a big explosion, if you like, and then we have that unfolding universe. And actually the telepathy allows, independent of that restriction our universe has. No, that is not correct. Our universe, from our understanding, has to communicate instantly, which means that we can have access to any information, or we can exchange any information independently, where the dialogue partner is located in the universe. And another thing which is very interesting is we had the information received from Sigildar, which is a species, an ET species from the Orion star constellation, and her home is located around the Betelgeuse on the left top side of the Orion star constellation. And when we talked and discussed about what telepathy is and how small the component or the aspect could be I can communicate with, she mentioned that even an atom is happy to say hello. That was a very funny statement, but that expressed very much that even an atom or that very small base is able to communicate telepathically, because even an atom has a consciousness. And she described that the base of telepathic communication, you can say, are consciousness strings. She mentioned consciousness strings, which are not identified yet by our scientists. And when we discussed that possibilities of telepathic communication, we touched one point many of you here in the webinar already know. We touched the point how to communicate with another object, another entity, consciousness entity like Gaia or the sun, for example. We touched the point to communicate telepathically a big unit of consciousness like the Earth. And that was confirmed by Sigilda, and she went one step further beyond that. Because I asked her whether it's possible to communicate with a black hole. That means with a cosmic object which is of an incredible power and energy, and all the light will go into that black hole in the cosmic size, and the light is not able to come out. And Sigilda mentioned that even you can communicate with a black hole, but it is a very strong and great, big consciousness. But it's possible to communicate with black holes. And the strings, she showed a picture of that. The consciousness strings are very, very much together, very close together. And even they are very much compressed together. It was possible, or is possible to communicate with this consciousness. Just to give you an idea and to underline that what I mentioned before, that it is not limited what we can do with our consciousness. Now let's go a little bit further. First of all, that is the summary what telepathic communication is. So we can have that on one slide available. We have thoughts, emotions, and senses. And the other thing is we can communicate on a consciousness level with one or more entities, consciousness entities, and we are able to communicate independent where and when this dialogue partner is located. That is a very important point I will cover in a second. And this is related with one slide we showed together to you, to the participants of yesterday. That has to do with our view and perspective what consciousness is. And as you remember, we had yesterday the materialism view. That is basically our current scientists groups we have working on the nature and the information the nature gives to us. And then we have the idealism view to consciousness. And if we would like to describe that in one very core statement, then materialism, we could say that matter determines mind. That is the preferred view of our scientists to our world and to our consciousness. Means if we are dying and our brain is dead, then they assume that it's not possible to think and to perceive any information. The other side is idealism, where we think around. That is basically our part, where we follow that path, where mind determines matter. And let's have a look to that different perspectives of consciousness. If we look to the scientists today, they think that our cosmos, our universe, is created by Big Bang. That is a picture which I had from a German website, and they think that there was sometimes a Big Bang, a great explosion, where all the energy goes into unfolding universe, developing step by step stars, galaxies, and this kind of things. You know, here there is a very small part in their theoretical model, where there are dark ages, where nothing happened basically, where we have a concentration of energy basically, and that the first stars appeared around 400 million years after that inflation. But If we look to the people looking from the idealism perspective, we have basically the following. Those people also are looking to a creation, but we are now touching, and that is the important point here in our time, we are touching spiritual aspects, religious aspects, if you like. And that is represented in that picture, which was created by myself when I asked my guardian angel at this time, what religion is basically the best religion. And he showed me this picture, and I like this picture very much because it tells a lot about what is our view of the Creator, or nothing, or whatever your idea, your religious belief is. He said that we have a tree, and if you look to the parts of the tree, there is a light shining, right? And now many people worldwide, depending on the religious belief, depending on the world religion they like and they follow in their path, they look to the tree from different positions. And they, in that view, they recognize basically different parts of the tree, from the left side, from the front side, from the right side, from the back side. But even the view of the tree are different. The parts with the blossoms and so on, even those are different. They in any time see the same light. So that was one answer he gave, and with the final statement, basically there is no religion which is better than another. And that is very important for our telepathy centers. Our intention is not to install a new religion or similar thing, nothing else. Our intention is to respect the belief of every man or woman or a child on the earth. It doesn't matter whether it's a native tribe or Islam, wonderful man, or if it's Christ or whatever. We respect that with our approach. And to give you an impression, Zikidar, I mentioned before, I have asked whether they do something similar like our Allah or our God or a similar thing. And she said, and that was a very, very, very moving sentence, I would like to say, and that touches my heart, deeply in my heart. She, the species name is Bentu. She said, we name it Base Bo, the light that outshines everything. And that was very, very great sentence. And she emphasized Base Bo to show how they are related to that light. And that is very interesting because also ET species, they are looking and searching for what is behind that light. And what I would like to emphasize finally here, in any activities we are doing, we respect other people and their religious belief, because they all always have very good arguments and experiences for their religion and their beliefs. And the one or other here in our webinar might have contact with wonderful Hinduistic gods, for example, even if you are Christ. So you might have learned and contacted already different religious, wonderful aspects of the creation. As well as we mentioned yesterday, the white buffalo calf woman is very important for the native tribes in US, and she is back already, and you can call her if you like, and you can ask her if you like, and she is willing to help and support whatever you would like. So that is just the view of the mind determines matter and the creation as itself, which is not just scientific matter explodes. No, it is the mind which drives that unfolding, that creation. And that is very important for the telepathic thing. And I will go a little bit further. If you look to the message given to mankind on 21st of June, You remember possibly this one statement in the message. You will become knowledgeable regarding the impact of mind over matter. That means that the people, step by step, here on Earth, will have a new perspective of that idealism, I would like to say, and they will tell us and help us to understand. And that leads us to a very important part, the question related to the creation, if we are following the path of the mind over matter, the idealism path. And this question, I can tell you, we ask a lot of time during our events to the people. Even they are very religious, from different religious belief system, we ask, what do you think? Does the Creator, if we say Creator, we can take any other name as well, does the Creator think? And for that moment, I give you some seconds. What would you answer if somebody would ask you that question? Does the Creator think? And I can tell you, even people, they are loving God and they are trust God. In that case, they say no, the Creator is not thinking. He is, for example, is one of the answers. And the second question is, that the Creator is able to feel. Does the Creator feel? Does the Creator feel emotions? And that is one question more of that religious people deny, and they say, no, the Creator is not able to feel. And I can tell you that is one of the major parts to understand what is happening right now, which is mentioned a lot of times in many religious beliefs in world religions, when we are talking about the end times from the Bible perspective. And I will say you or give you an indication how the answer could be handled. As I mentioned before, that is your belief system, that is your experience. You can say, I don't believe that what the Cosmic Society is talking about. I have my own view, that is absolutely okay. But for that telepathy center issue and the telepathic communication, we would like to give you a new perspective or further perspective for one or the other participants here. If you are alone and you have a deep sorrow inside, and you start to pray for you or for your children, and you ask God to support or to help, or Jesus or Maria or Buddha or whatever you would like to do, and you think of the Hinduism gods who are great and wonderful with the different aspects, to the angels. In that moment, you believe that this dialogue partner, this God, this Allah, is hearing you and help you. But if you can talk in one direction with the Creator, and you hope that He is answering you and supporting you, yet then implicitly you have the feeling that He can think, because the Creator needs to understand what is in your heart when you formulate your sentence, you know. And the other thing is when asking who is God, and many people say, oh, a loving instance, a wonderful being, and I know He loves me, and I had tears in my eyes many times when I pray to Him or to Jesus or Maria, and I got the information, I love you, you are my child, for example. Yes, that is basically the answer. Yes, the Creator can feel. And that is our model. We give to you to understand what the telepathic communication is based on. Okay? Now, let's go through that model. And that's what we are now looking to is a very simple model to understand what is happening now, what is happening with us, and what the base is for telepathic communication. Assuming that the creator is able to think and able to feel, then this would lead us to consciousness. So if we are able to communicate, to give a question, and then or to ask a question and receive an answer or support or an event in my daily life, then we have a consciousness instance. That is a very important thing. And if we have a consciousness instance, then we could go one step further. And you see on the first step a very, very complicated chart, but it's not so complicated as you think. We will talk a little bit, a few seconds, about multidimensional consciousness. If the creator created the creation, our universe is one example. We have learned that the creator also created other universes as well. Then we have that unfolding process. That means the creator creates something, then this part he has created again creates something, and then we have another creation and another creation. That is not by accident that we have now 4 levels of unfolding levels here, but that is a different topic. Remember the flower of life we presented yesterday, where we have that golden flower, which now will be generated, the golden flower of life. We at one point create not just our Earth or other planets or galaxies or whatever. We also create an energy environment, which is here named as higher self, with some bubbles inside. That is a model, you know. You will receive from your spirits different models, but that is okay. And that depends on your path you went through during your spiritual awakening. But we can use that model we show you and present to you today as the base for the telepathic communications. Okay, you see here, as yesterday, the 3-dimensional level, but in this case with 3 pictures representing the Earth. One in the middle, which has a light gray color, and then 2 Earths left and right. Then we have the astral plane above our 3-dimensional Earth, and we have then many more dimensions, and at one level our higher self is located. That is different for the different higher selves, but basically they are smeared through the creation. Here there is a green circle, and within this green circle there are blue dots. And I would like to use an example to a little bit explain what this means. You can say our higher self is like a tree, a sour tree. And if you imagine that our higher self is like an apple tree, then this apple tree has many, many apples. One apple is shown here. That is a green apple. Let's name this apple Alfred. The difference is that this apple named Alfred is not named Alfred Steinecker. That is a difference. So there is a name Alfred. And you can remember an apple. Inside the apple are many, many cores, right? Apple cores. And if we use that example, we can imagine that one core out of that apple, which is located in the higher self soul tree, decides, or this Alfred apple decides to send one core in an incarnation to Earth. That is one example. And we learn together that if we come to Earth and we are born, we are a small baby, we have a comparable high consciousness to our origin, which is always 100%. And then we are going down, we decreasing our consciousness, and then we are increasing the consciousness, right? And you see here there is Earth in 2016. Now we are going a step further. One other core, for example, we sent as an incarnation 13,000 years, for one example, before Christ to Earth, in that example. And possibly we are a safe tiger or a plant as one incarnation, which is astonishing for the one or other people who thought we are always born or incarnated as a human being. No, you can talk with your own spirits. Possibly we will have that communication next week, and we have done many incarnations here, and now we are going a step further. We also could have an incarnation in the future, in the possible potential future of the Earth. In that case, 3035 Anno Domini, and in that case we are a woman, which we would say is a future woman. The interesting point is that from above that 3 dimensions, time is not existing any longer. What would mean that all the beings, all the consciousness entities on the levels above 3D will have a look through the existing creation now. And that leads to a very important part of our telepathic communication. And I can tell you that some of the participants, even well spiritual educated, are very irritated talking about that. It is possible to communicate today with one of our incarnations in the past, or even in the possible future. And much more because the creation is based on thought and love. If we look to our heart chakra, it is basically possible, even it might not be allowed by our spiritual guides, but it's basically possible. You can modify the past, like here, 13,000 years before, with our consciousness, if we go in contact, or even to the future. And that touches again what we have talked about yesterday, when we said that we need to focus our consciousness on joy and love, and we image the wonderful new earth with our mind, because our wonderful heart chakra, which is very, very open, we are in the process of creating this new earth, this new world. So that is very base information, but it goes furthermore. It is also possible that we send one core as an incarnation to another planet or star system, for example, represented here by that yellow, reddish planet, or red planet here with a wonderful city. And if you look to the position in that simple chart, you see that this is located above the astral plane, which basically means you have incarnations multidimensional through the creation. And that is the point where we are talk about different species we are getting now in touch with. And they have basically many homes above the astral plane. But the astral plane has one major aspect. We covered that yesterday. Here on the astral plane, there is still fear and sorrow and rage and this kind of emotions available, but not above or beyond that astral plane. Even the polarity is still available beyond the astral plane, like female and male aspects for some dimensional levels. The negative, in quotes, the negative emotions are not available beyond astral plane. This is very, very important if we talk about telepathic communication, because we had some participants in the events asking us, what can we do to save us for demons and negative beings and this kind of things. That has something to do with our consciousness during the telepathic communications, and what emotions we communicate to our dialogue partner. We will learn during our practical exercises next week some tools how we can handle wonderful beings within the creations, but with a different path, I would like to say. What say our star sisters and brothers? They talk about brothers and sisters following the dark path. So for them here, beyond the astral plane, they are talking about brothers and sisters, but walking another path. It's very neutral, very important to say. And we will learn some tools how we handle this area. All the negative beings, in quotes, we might have contact with are on that level or below, but that is just a game, I would like to say. That is an illusion, and we can be curious instead having fear, for example. So that as background. And now we look a little bit more into the depth. If we think that is the creation, then unfolding the creation by thoughts and loving energy, we then see that in every aspect which is part of the creation, we have consciousness as one part that concerns the animals as well as the humans, our star sisters, star brothers, our plants. We have crystals, we have all what we can imagine, even an atom, as we have learned, has a consciousness. And that basically leads to the telepathy center approach, where we are now learning, supported by our star sisters and brothers, to use telepathy as the universal communication form, which allows an intercultural exchange, very, very complex, with other beings, which are part of that federal organization, as we explained to others, but other or in difference to the beings which are sometimes met, and that is decreasing at the moment on the astral plane level. We meet beings following the service to others principle. If we look to living in harmony together or living together. And that we learn from our star sisters and brothers. And again, what we can do for other people in the world, that is one major part of our telepathy centers, is that we show other people worldwide what we have experienced, what we can do for them to live in harmony with nature, considering even the free energy components using telepathic communication.